The story of Cinderella is one of the world's most famous fairy tales, and the most widely known version is the one written by Charles Perrault in 1697, which includes the iconic fairy godmother and glass slippers. Here is a full explanation of the story, based on the classic version. The full Cinderella story. 1. The cruel stepmother and stepsisters. Cinderella, whose real name was likely Ella, was a beautiful, kind, and sweet-tempered girl. After her loving father remarried following her mother's death, she was forced to live with her new wicked stepmother and two jealous stepsisters, often named Anastasia and Drizella. The stepfamily was crueler because Cinderella's gentle beauty made their own mean-spiritedness and lesser looks seem worse. They made her their servant, forcing her to cook, clean, and do all the household chores. She was forced to sleep in a cold attic or on a straw bed near the fireplace, often covered in ashes and cinders. This is how she earned the unkind nickname, Cinderella. 2. The royal ball invitation. One day, a grand announcement was made. The king and queen were hosting a magnificent royal ball for 3 nights at the palace. Every maiden in the kingdom was invited, as the prince was seeking a bride. Cinderella's stepsisters were ecstatic and spent weeks preparing their finest gowns and practicing their dance moves, all while demanding Cinderella do their hair and alter their dresses. Cinderella, too, longed to go, hoping for a moment of magic. 3. The fairy godmother's magic. On the night of the ball, Cinderella watched her stepfamily leave, then sat alone and wept, believing her dream was impossible. Suddenly, her fairy godmother appeared. With a wave of her magic wand, the fairy godmother transformed a pumpkin into a magnificent carriage, turned 4 mice into splendid horses, changed a rat into a handsome coachman. Most importantly, she transformed Cinderella's rags into a breathtaking ball gown, and gave her a delicate pair of glass slippers. The fairy godmother gave Cinderella one strict warning: the magic would only last until midnight. When the clock struck 12, the spell would break and everything would return to its original form. 4. The ball and the lost slipper. Cinderella arrived at the ball, radiant and unrecognized. The moment she entered, all eyes turned to her. Even her stepmother and stepsisters did not recognize the elegant princess. The prince was captivated and danced with her for the entire evening, falling deeply in love with her grace and charm. On the first 2 nights, Cinderella remembered her promise and fled the moment before midnight. On the 3rd night, lost in her happiness with the prince, she forgot the time. When the clock began to strike 12, she suddenly remembered her fairy godmother's warning and rushed out of the palace as fast as she could. In her haste, she lost one of her unique glass slippers on the grand staircase. The prince, dismayed, ran after her but only found the tiny glass slipper. 5. The search and discovery. Heartbroken but determined, the prince announced that he would search the entire kingdom for the maiden whose foot fit the slipper. He declared that he would marry no one else but the girl whom the slipper perfectly fit. The royal messengers went from house to house. When they finally arrived at Cinderella's house, the stepsisters tried desperately to fit their large feet into the tiny slipper, but to no avail. The stepmother tried to hide Cinderella, but she finally emerged from her hiding place and asked if she might try. The stepfamily mocked her, but the prince's official insisted. When Cinderella sat down and slipped her foot effortlessly into the glass slipper, it fit perfectly. Then she pulled the matching slipper from her pocket, proving her identity. 6. Happily ever after. The prince was overjoyed to have found his true love. Cinderella's rags transformed back into her beautiful gown. Sometimes the fairy godmother appears again, sometimes the prince simply recognizes her inner beauty. Cinderella forgave her wicked family and went to the palace, where she and the prince were soon married and lived happily ever after.